Unfortunately, she had like two of our last two pregnancies were really difficult. She was on bed rest, preterm labor. And so this fifth pregnancy started out really rough, and we had a miscarriage about 10 weeks in,
Mhm.
and made the decision, because of the difficulty of those pregnancies, that it was really probably best to not grow our family biologically, but we'd grow through adoption. And we had seen friends adopt, and it had been a really beautiful experience to observe and participate in. And so we started the adoption process. Make a long story short, it was about a 2.5, 3 year journey before we were actually selected by a birth mom. And we fell in love. She was doing a month. Fell in love with her. She was going to have a boy, and we were all pumped up. And a month later, she went to labor. We went to the hospital. We were there with her through labor and delivery.
Hey everybody, I'm back. It's another episode of So What Success Stories with me, Summer Owens. And today I am talking to my brother. Yep, it's my brother. This is
Absolutely.
my brother from another mother, Shad Berry. And Shad has been my brother since the summer of 1997. And we'll get
Yeah.
into that story. We'll get into that story in a little bit. But yes, he is very truly my brother. Shad is the CEO of Kardia Collective, and he's a partner with Next Level Leadership, which I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. Shad, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So good to be with you, Summer. Love the work you're doing. My
Thank
sister from another Mister, Frost Camp 97. Um, yeah, so good to be here. So my name is Shad Berry, native Memphian, and married to my beautiful bride, Veronica Berry, who is also a friend and fellow Memphis Tiger graduate. She was a lot older than I was, and took advantage of my youth, and we got married in 2000. But we've got, hopefully, I guess she will see this at some point.
I love it.
Um, but yeah, we got married in 2000. We've got 4 kids, Ainsley, Abby, Jack, and Ann Claire. So they're about to be 20, 18, 16, and 14. And so, yeah, working with Kardia Collective, which is a counseling and coaching agency that I founded with a partner in 2014. And we do individual couples counseling. We have a community of about 27 coaches and counselors that meet with individuals and couples and families. And then we have a team of coaches that do addiction recovery and family systems and executive leadership development. And then Next Level Leadership is a leadership development program that we started just this last year to help leaders lead with more emotional and relational health. So a lot in the realm of emotional, spiritual, relational development and growth, which is a lot of fun.
That's really awesome, Shad. It's so funny because funny. I use the word funny because I was just gonna say I remember us being in college, and that was the word I would use to describe you. It's fun and
Was
funny.
funny.
Fun and
Funny,
funny.
weird.
but but you were doing such serious work and life-changing work and healing work. It's such important work. And I'm sure you're still having a lot of fun with it and being funny with it at the same time. So just a quick story on how Shad became my brother. Um, I'm so grateful that when I was in college, and I liked talking to young people before they go to college and while they're in college too, about how to make the most of their experience. And one of the best things that I did before I even stepped foot on the college campus was to attend Frosh Camp. And that was a camp for incoming freshmen. And at Frosh Camp, everybody is divided up into families. And Shad was part of my family. Shad was my brother, and we connected right off the bat. We were both
Mhm.
emerging leaders. I remember, yeah, we were both emerging leaders on the Emerging Leader Scholarship, and he got to be my brother, and I got to be his sister all the way back in 1997. And here we are all these years later. He is still my brother from another mother.
Yep.
And I
We
love it.
have
And I
we have
love it.
emerged.
And I love it. And he did, like he said, he married Veronica, who is a fellow alum as well. She was a part of Student Activities Council with me when I was a student leader on campus, and so was she. So just connections and networking and maintaining relationships, which I always say is so fun. Well,
It is.
Shad, it's so fun and it's also so important. It's crucial to your success, I think, and also your mental and emotional health. So Shad, let's get into these questions because I can't wait to hear and get caught up with you, and let people get to know you a little bit more. So this is through this program I have what I call the So What Success System, and I believe that when people can learn how to overcome their obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate their choices, they can achieve so what success. And that's success in spite of any obstacles that they face. And so, Shad, my first question for you is talk to me about some of the obstacles that you've had in your life, some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome, and just how you overcame those obstacles.
Yeah, thanks for asking, and I love that. I love that thought process or that system. It's really interesting and providential. I think that probably my biggest obstacles, challenges that we've experienced, and losses we've faced, have also been what have birthed or put me on the path that I'm on. And so how God has used those to heal and restore those obstacles and pains and losses, to really develop me and move me in a particular direction. So I'll go back. Veronica and I, after we had our fourth, we really felt like our fourth child really felt like there was room in our home and heart to have five. And basically, in our marriage, all I've had to do is look at her and she'd get pregnant. And so we got pregnant pretty quickly.
Stop looking at me then. Look, don't look at
yeah. It doesn't work over Zoom, I don't think.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So anyway, oh man. So so we were pregnant, and unfortunately she had like two of our last two pregnancies were really difficult. She was on bed rest, preterm labor. And so this fifth pregnancy started out really rough, and we had a miscarriage about 10 weeks in, and made the decision, because of the difficulty of those pregnancies, that it was really probably best to not grow our family biologically, but we'd grow through adoption. And we had seen friends adopt, and it had been a really beautiful experience to observe and participate in. And so we started the adoption process. Make a long story short, it was about a 2.5, 3 year journey before we were actually selected by a birth mom. And we fell in love. She was doing a month. Fell in love with her. She was going to have a boy, and we were all pumped up. And a month later, she went to labor. We went to the hospital. We were there with her through labor and delivery. Met her family, and it was just this really beautiful experience. Well, we brought him home from the hospital and had him for 9 days. And in the state of Tennessee, the birth mom has her basically the right, at least at the time, I don't know if it's changed, but had the right to revoke or surrender 10 days after leaving the hospital. And so I got a call from the birth agency, from the adoption agency, on that 9th day. And I knew it was coming. I was like, I just answered the phone. I said, don't tell me what I think you're about to tell me. And they said, sure enough, that she had gone to the courthouse and signed a revoke or surrender, and that they could either come pick up the baby or we could give him back to her in 2 days. So on the 11th day from having him at home, we handed him back to her. And in that whole experience, so a couple of things. One of my prayers had been, I wanted to love him no differently than I had loved any of my other kids. Like, I didn't want it to feel any different. I wanted to experience it. And when I held him for the first time, I was like, this is my son. This is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And so when we handed him back to her, the tears we experienced and the loss we experienced, I was able to say to her, like, we're not mad at you. Like, I cannot imagine what this must have been like for you to carry him for 9 months and then make the decision to hand him over. Like, I have no idea what that must have been like. So I can only imagine to, like, the 11 days that we had him and loved him as our own, and then handing him back. These are tears of love, not tears of resentment or bitterness or anger. All that experience. And so so that, and we continued to try to adopt, and it was this door kept getting shut after door getting shut, and we kind of said, all right, Lord, if you want us to have another kid, then you you've been drop one off at the doorstep. And he didn't do that and chose fit to leave our family as is, with 4 beautiful kids. But I say all that, um, that experience really was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, because up to that point, my modus operandi was, when it came to obstacles and challenges, was to work harder, try harder, do more, double down, outsmart, out, like it was just work, do the work, because hard work was kind of my answer to everything. And I basically ran into this wall that I couldn't move, and it wrecked me, like not having the willpower or just the power. So it was kind of I think it was my first admission of powerlessness, and that's really what pushed me into counseling. Like I basically had my own panic attacks and my own depression, my own experiences with some of those things for what I thought was the first time. And that's really when I started to do some deeper work in counseling, that I would have told you, just a year prior, that that's not for me. I don't need that. I'll never need that. So it was a very humbling experience that looking back, I'm really grateful for.
Sure.
But I wouldn't wish on anybody.
So that's yeah, I didn't know anything about that, Shad, and it's so interesting that you went through that experience. I of course didn't have the experience. I had a child very young,
Hmm.
and I remember the struggle for me personally with um the
Hmm.
decision to abort, have my child, or give my child up for adoption. And it's a very, very difficult decision as the woman carrying the baby. And
Hmm.
never did I think about how difficult it must be to be on another side of it, somebody who desperately wants this child and can love this child. And so I can't imagine how you all felt either. And I know you all handled it in a beautiful way. And I think what you said too is that, or what I heard and what you said is, and I believe it too, because I know you're a man of faith and I'm a woman of faith too, is that all things work together, right? For the good. And so it led you to what you're doing now, and probably the countless lives that you've saved and changed
Hmm.
and helped through the work that you do, because you were led in that way. I don't know if you knew this or not, but so what is based on the serenity prayer. So the work that I do is to help people to say, so what, to the things that they can't change.
And the
And so
courage to
now
change things
what?
they can.
Yep,
Right.
to change the things that they can. So you can do some things you can do something about. And I definitely heard you when you
Yes.
say your answer to challenges is to work harder, because that's me.
Yep.
And then you saw in that situation, sometimes it's not about that. That's sometimes it's a situation that you gotta accept. Gotta accept. And how can you make
Hmm.
something
No, I
positive out
love.
of it?
Yeah, I have grown to depend and love the Serenity Prayer, um, very much. Depend on that. It's beautiful, beautiful language.
And it helps you with any situation. For me, it helps me in any and
Hmm.
every situation, no matter how challenging. Well, okay,
Hmm.
so I'm grateful that you were able to take a painful experience and make something so positive out of it. So the next part of the So What Success System is about eliminating excuses. So in life, we all have challenges, and you just talked about a challenge that you all face, and I know you've had plenty of others. What are some excuses that you had to eliminate to get through those challenges, or to get to the place where you are right now?
Yeah, and man, I'd say it's an ongoing process that's not done. I feel like
Sure.
it's it's evolving, and and just being comfortable with it being a process. I think there's a part of me that always believed that I would arrive at some ascend to some place. And what I realize is I don't really, if I could ascend to this place of where everything worked and I never made mistakes and everything was smooth, that I would actually be worse off than I am now, because I wouldn't need relationships, I wouldn't need God, I wouldn't need friends, I wouldn't need community. So I would actually be I basically was spending all this energy trying to transcend humanity, like trying to be more than human, which is not my territory. Like I don't belong in that space. I wasn't made for that space. And so I think that like the excuses that for me were really came and still do, they come in the voice of what I would call shame or toxic shame, the voice of, and really what that translates into is self-contempt. Like shame is not a bad thing. There's lots of varied opinions on this depending on who you read, but like shame simply tells me that I'm human and I'm not God, and that it's okay to be limited as a human being. Like I wasn't made to be more than human, and being human is not what's wrong with me. Like, so a lot of people, and then part of my passion and the way you're caring for people and the way you want to care for people is like to embrace and accept your humanity as a beautiful and wonderful gift, not as something that you have to have contempt for. And so much of what I see and what we interact with is giving people the permission to be human. And so I know that's not like, and so here's how those become excuses. Like they become excuses because toxic shame is basically condemning you for not being enough, not good enough, not smart enough, not prepared enough. And it's also toxic shame or self-contempt keeps you on this invisible ladder that compares you and compares me to everybody else. So it does not take me 5 seconds to look around and find people that I think are doing more and doing better and who are smarter and like, and I can totally use that as a reason to hide and to stay small. You know, I mean, like the stuff you're doing is so courageous and putting yourself out there, and you're vulnerable and you're open and you're honest, and like that's risky. Like you're exposing yourself to critique and judgment, and we all, you know, when you kind of make the commitment to say, you know, it's okay that I'm not enough, and I'm not competing with everybody else. Like I don't have to win. There's nothing to win. And so that's been my journey in part. I mean, that is an ebb and a flow, and it's a daily kind of process, right? And that's why even the Serenity Prayer and, you know, things like that. And I think, you know, even in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. It's not, we don't get like a decade bread.
The whole supply,
There's not a
yeah.
millennium bread. Yeah, and the benefit of that is I can wake up every day and still need it. I need the bread for today. And that comes in so many forms and shapes. But yeah, I think those, if I tell people, I had lunch with a guy today and I was like, man, you speak so harshly to yourself. Like you don't even know how harsh you are to yourself. And I said, can I represent the voice of kindness? Like, what would the voice of kindness say to you? Of like, man, what you've done has been really hard. Like, look at how much courage it's taken you to get to where you are. Look how much responsibility you've carried successfully. You know, and like people don't do that. Like, it's not okay. So I don't know, I'm rambling now, but yeah,
I love
that's
it.
in
I
part.
love what you're saying. No, I love what you're saying, and it's so true and so powerful. And I appreciate you acknowledging me. And that is true. And even for me, even though I've made this decision and I'm walking this path, it still is a daily thing. It's even a daily decision to continue, because
Right.
it's not easy. And I yeah, you're exactly right though, is that we all need to, I think, give ourselves a lot more credit and a lot more compassion. And so I'm glad you did that with the gentleman that you had lunch with today. And even just you saying it right now I feel like it's going to give a lot of people permission to do it for themselves. So I love that.
Yeah, I hope
Uh,
so. Yeah, and
I
then
love
last
it.
thing I'll say there is like if you are living on that ladder, that invisible ladder, comparing yourself to others, basically you end up taking more blame for when things don't work than you deserve, or you'll take way more credit for when they do work than you deserve. So it's like, instead of living kind of open-handedly, and I love the language that you use of a path, like it's a path. I'm choosing to walk down this, which kind of gets into the next point of your
Mhm.
success model of like, it's a choice. And I have choices. So
So yeah,
it's
go
cool.
right into that. So yeah, the next part is calculating choices. We have to recognize that we do have choices, and our choices can keep us still or stagnant, can take us backwards, or can move us forward. Talk about some of the choices that you've made in your life.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of 8. And as Summer likes to remind me, I was a trumpet player in a family band, the Berry family
Chad,
band.
I just thought that was
Uh,
the coolest thing ever. I remember when can't remember if it was our whole class or a group from the class or the emerging leaders group, but I remember coming to your house and I was like, wow. I thought it was
yeah,
cool, but go ahead with your story.
yeah, it's true. So my dad would tell me that I was the world's youngest trumpet player in a big band consisting of one family. So I don't know if that's true or not, but like if you add enough
Probably.
qualifiers to something, you can be the world's best or youngest of anything. And but the bigger point of that, as the youngest of eight, my dad had a business that he started in 1972, and I was working in that business during college, actually when I knew you, and then for the next 10 years after Veronica and I got married. And probably the most weighty decision and weighty choice I ever made was to leave the family business in 2011. That felt, it was a big step of separation, um, from my family of origin, and it had, people received that differently, and how members of the family viewed that, and so and it really challenged. So all of us, like, there's this, all of us have probably been a victim at some point of something that has happened to us that we were powerless over. And we're not all victims. Like, we don't live life as a victim, meaning we're not without choices, even in the state of that. Like, so I think for me to have to take this first step of making a choice that may not be popular, that other people may not agree with, and me being okay with that it's okay that I can take this choice and go down this path, and I don't have to have everyone's approval. That was a big deal for me at 20, however old I was, 30, whatever. Like, that was a really big step. And it felt a lot like jumping off a cliff and kind of bouncing and getting up and going like, huh, like, I lived. I did what felt like the scariest thing that I ever have to do, and I'm still, and I'm okay. And so that gave me, a lot of courage, I think, to do more, hopefully not to a fault where it kind of gets to be like an adrenaline spike, but like to go like, all right, there's another cliff, let's try that,
Let's try
let's
that
make
one.
this. Yeah. But it does, it's like, and I think people being empowered to make choices and take responsibility for those choices, that I am responsible, and capable to make choices, and I may make good ones and I may make bad ones, and it doesn't define me, and it also puts me kind of in a posture of faithfulness and courage to take those steps and choose those paths, whatever it be.
Yeah. I love it, and I can only imagine how scary that might be, for all the reasons that you already gave, being the baby boy of the group too, right? Um but as you're saying that, it's making me think about one of the scariest things that I did, which was leave FedEx, to become an entrepreneur, where
Yeah.
I was safe and comfortable. And yeah, I felt that what you just said about jumping off a cliff and then bouncing up and like, wait, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah.
And so, and I see now you're on an entrepreneurial path. Well, you have that in your background anyway, and now it's your thing that you're doing, creating your own path. And I think that is super brave and super courageous. Um, and I feel you on choosing a path that is changing lives and saving lives.
Mm,
It's admirable, and I love and respect you
mm.
for all of that.
You're kind. You're kind. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that whole process made me feel like a champion for counselors, because I'm not a licensed counselor and I don't really want to be. The work they do is so hard and so difficult and so challenging. And I think they're kind of unsung heroes, because most of what they do is under the agreement of confidentiality. I mean, all of what they do. So
Sure.
they're not able to go share, what they've walked through with people. And then it's up to the clients if they want to share that or divulge that. So you've got this group of individuals that are willing to walk through kind of the sewage of our lives with us, in a non-judgmental way, in a loving and caring way, and that leads to healing and hope. And I'm like, I was just blown away by their gifting, and so being able to kind of help support them through this structure in this community has been really rewarding, because they are the ones doing the work, touching lives.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know if you knew or not, but I'm a life coach, a certified life coach. So it's similar in that I'm not a licensed counselor either,
Yep.
but I do get the honor and the privilege of hearing people's stories, challenges, and trying to help them through those. So I think that's awesome.
No doubt you're good at it.
I love doing it. I absolutely love doing it. And I know, Shad, I just can imagine how great you are at the work that you do. You're the same person when that I met in 1997, except I think you're a little more handsome. I will give you that.
Stop it.
I love it.
My kids do. They'll find old pictures and they'll be like, "Dad, is that you?" Like, oh, yeah, that was my hair back then.
I love it. But you are still the most one of the most amazing people that I've ever met, Shad, and I really am grateful that we were able to connect as soon as I got to Memphis. All right. So when people are able to learn how to overcome their obstacles, eliminate the excuses, and then make some good calculated choices, I believe they can have so much success. And that is success no matter what you go through. But Shad, for you, what is your personal definition of success?
That's a good question. I mean, I really try to avoid, there's kind of like there's the answer that I want to give, and then the answer that I really judge myself by, if I'm being completely honest. What I philosophically want to measure as success is through a lens of faithfulness. And here's what I mean, not to be vague, but leaders are first followers. Leaders are, and what I mean by first follower is you are following. When you choose to lead, you're following a vision that I think has been implanted in you. Like, so you're choosing to agree with that vision and commit to it, before you know if it's going to work, before you know if it's going to make money, before you know if it's going to be approved or successful. So when you're leading, like, you being faithful to what's the vision that's been implanted in you, because I truly believe that all of us are made to see different things. You see things, Summer, that I do not see. I see things that you do not see. Together, we see more, and we can learn about each other. We can learn about other members of humanity. We can better learn to relate to one another, and relate to the world and contribute to the world. So, like, I really want to, my daily struggle is to be faithful to make the contribution that I think I'm called to make. And this is the space that I'm in. And now the fleshly kind of material side of me also wants to make a ton of money. And I want to, have the appearances of success. And so I wrestle with that, about, does it appear to be successful, or how successful can it be? But I really do, at the end of the day, where I get grounding and I'm able to kind of refocus is, am I being faithful to the vision that I have? And when I stay in that space, it's really clear, like it flows, it's more free. When I find myself getting more anxious, and maybe even more self-deprecating and judgmental, when I know I've drifted into a different success definition. And so it's helpful for me to be really mindful of that, and to have people around me that can remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing the way that I'm doing it. So I don't know if that helps or if that makes sense.
No, I think that I like that, and I really like the honesty in that answer too. And I like when you said leaders are first followers, and then when you define that, but what you meant by that, it was totally not what I thought. And I I like that, because it's like, okay, servant leadership, being a follower. I remember even
Right.
specific classes that we had as emerging leaders.
Right.
But when you said that, about following that vision. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is very, very true. And being faithful to that vision, and just thinking about me and my own journey as you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
am a follower of my own vision, and I have to be, and I have to be faithful to that. I think that was good.
Well, and
And
it's the cool thing about it to me, and I didn't learn that, like, I didn't come up with this myself. I can't even remember where, I've had so many people speaking into my life and guiding and teaching me, but like, if your a vision is a vision because it's bigger than you, like, you can't pursue it on your own. And so when we use the term like vision casting, like, we're sharing our vision with other people in hopes they want to join in some way, because I'm basically admitting I can't do this myself. So if you think this is cool, would you join me? Some way, some shape, some form, support it. So I think that's really cool when I look at it that way of going, yeah, of course it's scary, and because it's bigger than I am and I need help. And it's okay to be a leader and still need help.
absolutely. And I think you're not a real leader if you don't use the help of other people or recognize that you need
Hmm.
help. Then you're really not a real leader. Um,
Right.
you're not. I mean, and I say that, and I think about the leadership positions that I've been blessed to have. And even when because I speak on leadership too, and one of the things that I talk about is a lot of times, even as a leader, you don't have to be a manager of a team or the leader of an organization, because we're all leading our own lives, right? So you're a leader
Right.
regardless.
Right.
And in all of those areas, you still need help and you need other people, because that's how, like you said before, that's how God made us. Anyways, nothing we
Yep.
can do on our own,
Yep.
completely on our own. Okay, before I go to my last question for you, you got to talk about the book, because now you're an
Oh yeah.
author. Now you're an author. So yes, please tell us about your book.
Yeah, so it was birthed out of a lot of these kind of emotional, relational principles in with my interest in business, specifically the business leader that's operating at what we call the mid-market level. So my partner and co-author, Ken Edmondson, he's been a mentor of mine since I was 20. Like, he was a person that walked alongside of me when I was leaving our family business. Like, he's been in my life like that for a long time. And he's a real savvy, experienced business leader and consultant and coach. And one of the things that we through this COVID experience, what we really have seen, and it really didn't start with COVID. It just exposed a lot of the stress fractures that were already there in the lives of leaders. Is that the next 10 years? Well, I'll say this: if the World Economic Federation basically says that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, like we're on the back end of a 50-year technology deployment cycle that is basically going to create a decade of disruption. So, because through artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies and blockchain and all these things that are all of this technology that is kind of maturing right now, it's creating a tremendous amount of disruption, and technology is moving at a rapid pace, and mid-market companies are particularly vulnerable. And with the mentality that I described of myself, of what do I do when I'm stressed? Work harder, try harder, do more, learn more, be more. We're just seeing organizations and leaders burning out, losing sight of their vision, burying their hope. And so what we really want to do is kind of help first describe the change that people are feeling. Like, people are feeling the change, but they just say, people just say, oh, it's social media, it's politics, it's like they're just throwing out all this stuff, because there's a lot of things happening that you just can't see, but
Sure.
stuff the sands are shifting underneath us. So we tried to the best of our ability kind of put parameters around that, to say this is the stuff that's happening that you don't see, that's creating all this shift. And then and we're not making predictions about it. We're not taking stances on it. We're just naming it.
Mhm.
And then we try to propose a model of leadership that helps take all of those things into consideration. the essential journey out of a leader, which is the tools and techniques of leadership to create sustainable and profitable organizations, but also the journey in, which is an internal journey that most of us don't want to take, about what it feels like to try to navigate these waters and what do I need emotionally, spiritually, relationally as I endeavor to lead through the next 10 years. Because there's just going to be, we just know that there's just going to be constant disruption, and hopefully things find an equilibrium. But anyway, so that's the book, is called Next Level Leadership. It's a free download. So we're not selling it. We're giving it away just because we care about it and want leaders to have it. And you can download that at edmondson.group if you're interested, or reach out to me directly. But yeah, it's been fun. It was a fun work to do with Ken. I wouldn't have done it on my own, but he was gracious to invite me into it. And it was a really cool collaborative project. So
That is
I
cool.
guess I can say that I'm an author like you. Following
That's deep. That's so deep. And I thank you for sharing that, and congratulations on writing that. And I'm sure that was a great experience to do with someone who's been a mentor and a leader in your life, and share that with him. I think that's just awesome and amazing. And
Thank you.
And just powerful insight too. Very, very powerful insight for people to have and to think about life right now and the future differently, because I think we all need to kind of open our eyes and realize what we're feeling, like you said, and deal with what we're feeling and experiencing. Name it, identify it, and prepare for what's to come. So thank you for
Well,
that.
and yeah, and to your point, like, you have, what choices do I make in light of that? Like, what do I surrender? What do I have responsibility for in my leadership and in my life? Because you're not going to be able to keep up with it. You can't listen to everything. There's so much information, so
Yeah.
much input, and we're really harming ourselves in a lot of ways by not monitoring and controlling what we're allowing in. And so we're seeing a lot of harm done, um, and it's really sad to see kind of what that creates or causes.
It really is. And so anyway, I'm glad, like you said, we're talking about it, we're addressing it, we're dealing
Hmm.
with it, and in all the different ways that you're addressing it and dealing with, not just the
Hmm.
book. I think the book is a powerful part of it, but in all aspects of your life, you're doing that. That's awesome. Okay, so Shad, since 1997, when we were incoming college freshmen, a lot has happened. We've both been through a lot.
Yep.
You have
Hmm.
achieved a lot. You've done a lot of big, brave, big, bold things. You've overcome a lot of challenges. Talk about how you have gotten to okay, now the question I really want to ask. So you've been really successful, but I want you to give some advice to somebody who wants to be successful. They may be experiencing some challenges in their life, but they don't know. They're maybe running into a wall, brick wall. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's they just need some help? And I think you're the
Yeah, I mean,
perfect person to do it, by the way.
I don't know about the perfect person, but I do know that I think a few things that come to mind, and probably the one that stands out the most, is to not be afraid to ask for help. Um, I think I have been very surprised by the generosity of people with their time and attention, people that I deemed as successful, people that I looked up to, people that I admired, that I thought were above me and beyond me, that wouldn't want to give me time or attention, the people that I didn't think would have time for me. And I think we would be really surprised, and I totally get the reasons why people don't ask, because I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to, and maybe I'm managing my own image. I don't want people to think, I want people to think better of me, that I know more than I really know. So there's all sorts of elements, but man, you can expedite that process, I think, and accelerate that by just asking, and offering to take someone to coffee or lunch or take a walk or fit in their schedule. People are very generous, and I would say honest, successful people who don't say things like I'm self-made or I did this all on my own. Honest, successful people know that they had people in their lives offering freely, that wanted more for them than from them, And so it makes you like, man, if I can offer anything to anybody, like I want to be able to share it, because I've had so many people that cared about me and offered themselves to me without anything expecting anything in return. So I think that'd be a simple, very practical, like, you know, asking for help and guidance.
Yeah, and think it's a really good one. So in my and I get it. I also get why people don't ask for help, because I used to be a person. I'm like, no, I can do it on my own. I don't want to bother anybody.
Right,
I don't want to be a burden.
right,
And then all the other reasons that you gave too is sometimes people want, it's like, no, I got it all together. I'm good. I'm
right.
good. And then you realize, okay, you're not. And what I would share with my class that I teach at the University of Memphis is, don't be afraid to ask, just like you said, but put yourself in a position that people really want to help you. So most
Hmm.
people, like you, like me, I love helping people,
Hmm.
but be somebody who's helping yourself first.
Hmm.
Put in some work and show that when
Right.
you come to me and you want that help, that you're positioned to receive the help, and you're not going to waste
Hmm.
my time, or you're not going to take
Hmm.
my help for granted. So I
Right.
think that's,
Right.
yeah, I think, those two things that go together. People are like, yes, I would love to help you, and I'm thinking like, what else can I do? How else can I help you? And people
Right.
like you are I know are exactly the same. So I think that's wonderful advice. Well, Shad,
Yeah.
I thank you for your time. This was very insightful. This was fun. This is cool. It was very, very good talking to you. And like I said, I'm just grateful. 1997 Frosh Camp brought us together. Thank you, brother.
Go Tigers. Yeah. Thank you. I'm proud of the work you're doing too. Keep it up. Stay courageous.
Thank you.